all the teachings in the world are the same in the sense that they're pointing to something greater than the teaching. So whatever the teaching is, even if there's only one true teaching, let's just say there is, it's still a teaching that takes you somewhere else. And that else, to me, is universal. So I'm not so worried about who said what or what's right or what's wrong. I'm more focused on beyond that to where it is that takes us all. Because that place is, it's something else. There's an old Rumi poem, which I can only quote a small part of, but it says, "There is a field beyond right and wrong. Let me meet you there." So it's that leap over the teachings, the dogma, the philosophies, the religions. All of that's there to get you to that place. And that place, how could it be any different for anyone? Because it can only be one thing that's behind all this, I guess is the best way to put it. Again, they're just words. It's vocabulary. It doesn't, to me, it makes no difference. I mean, it's like it's, all these old little adages about, if we all closed our eyes and we were touching something, the old story is an elephant, everyone's touching a different part of the elephant, and everybody's saying, well, this thing is just like this because I'm touching his tail, touching his trunk, his ear. Everybody's going to we're all blind in one way. We're blind to what the truth is. We're trying to figure out what the truth is. We rely on some form of teaching to get us there. And yet we still want to cling to the teaching and not move beyond it. It's in Buddhism, they talk about it's the raft that gets you across to the other shore. When you get to the other shore, there's no reason to carry the raft anymore. The raft has served its purpose. I just encourage people to try and stay as universal as they can in their beliefs without transgressing what they believe their beliefs teach. Or, I'm not suggesting you drop anything you believe or go against anything that you firmly and strongly believe in. I'm just asking that you consider the fact that those things take you to a greater and larger place, because sometimes the teachings are very narrow. And they're narrow to get you to a bigger place. I suggest we focus on that bigger place where everything is much more common in nature. It's, I don't know, I've been thinking a lot about that lately, a lot about different teachings, different religions, different ways of interpreting what people have written in the past and what's been presented to humanity as the methods of getting to wherever it is. And I see this common thread, personally see this common thread, where I don't see conflict anymore in the different teachings. Now, of course, you can take any spiritual book or any spiritual tradition, and you can find amazing things in it, and you can find abhorrent things in it. I mean, you look at the Quran. The Quran talks about, it's okay to kill all the non-believers. In the Bible, in the Old Testament, it says okay to kill the non-believers, and in different words, but it says the same thing. So there are, of course, things in all traditions that are unreconcilable to the basic teachings. But all the basic teachings of every religion I've studied still talks about the same kind of things. So if we try and focus on the things that are, what's the right word? Useful, as opposed to the things that divide us. It's like, you can say, well, that religion's horrible because it says this. Well, they can turn around and say the same thing about your religion. And, what fascinates me is again, our human mind's ability to differentiate to the point of, to me, ridiculousness. It's like every religion talks about God. Same word. And yet, each person says, well, this is my God. My God. How does that make any sense to me? It doesn't make sense to me. How can God be yours? You're his, or its, or whatever. So when you say my God is different than your God, God is a word that's supposed to be a universality. It's supposed to be the thing that there is nothing outside of. It's supposed to be this wonderful word that is supposed to explain everything. And yet our minds want to take it and make it smaller and make it distinctual, and your idea of it and my idea of it are different. Of course it is. It's beyond mind. It's beyond the ability for our human minds to even comprehend. So why are we trying to differentiate when we talk about these things? Why can't we focus on getting to that place where all things fall away and all there is a field of grace? I mean, again, these are just words, but that feeling of no separation, no division, no singularity. Everything it's what's behind everything. It's what everything's made from. It's what, again, I sound like a preacher here, my goodness. I've often said, even though I'm an ordained Buddhist, that I could go speak at any Catholic church, and I could probably give a sermon where nobody would disagree with anything I said. Because I would just not use the words that would offend, and I would use the words that they use. The message is the same, it's just a different vocabulary. The story's the same, I would love to try that sometime.
Start with Methodist Church.
Well, I gave a talk at the Methodist Church a number of years ago, and I got close, but I think I slipped a few times.
You'll have to love us, so does
Yeah. But and the only reason that we come together like this, the only reason that we seek out a religion, or we have talks like this, or we seek out people that want to talk about stuff like this, is because there is a driving force in all of us. We all know there's more to life than this body, than the things that we go after in this life. They're here, they're to be used and honored, but they're not the end-all be-all. They're not important at the end of the day, at the end of our lives. We're not going to sit there and say, wow, I had a really great life because I got all this stuff in the garage. That's not, and honestly, as we get closer to that moment of passing over, even our relationships, we realize that the last thing I think we realize, and I've been around a number of people that have passed, so I think I can say this a tiny little bit of authority, but that at that last moment of realization, we're alone. We realize for the first time in our lives how truly alone we are in our humanness, that our lives are, I hate to say it because it sounds negative, but I don't mean it negatively, our lives were meaningless. Meaningless in the sense that nothing that we did is going to take us anywhere else beyond that point. Now, what we all imagine, or what we all feel a kinship to, that is quote, quote, beyond this, that's again a personal thing. And it's a belief that, we all have to feel comfortable in. Nothing's wrong. I don't believe anything's wrong. If we grow up, or if we lead a life where we have a strong belief in what's next, I think we'll still be, to some degree, slightly wrong in what it actually is. Because just like in life, when we imagine how something's going to be before it happens, when it happens, it's not quite the same. I have this intriguing little sort of fun thing. Again, I do these things, I always talk about these little games I play in my head. It's like, well, when we pass over, maybe everything that everybody talks about is true, but it happens in stages. Maybe at first there's nothing, so the atheists are right, there's nothing. But then maybe we kind of wake up and we experience something that is similar to one religion or another. And then as time, whatever time is after we pass, time goes on, we find ourselves in this place that we would refer to as heaven. And then maybe after that, we go on to learn something else. I mean, it's eternity, right? I mean, everybody kind of agrees that when we pass, there's some form of something that goes on timelessly, unless we're devout atheists where we believe there's nothing. But if eternity is out there beyond this life, well, eternity is a really long time. Many things could happen in eternity. We're only here for 100 years. Compare that to eternity. I mean, it's like we're here for a second. We're just here for a blip. And then, okay, what's next? If there is a next, what's next? And of course, everybody wants to have that understanding of what's next because there's comfort in that.